So joining us now, man about town, causing trouble in the House of Representatives, getting it done, Congressman Walter Jones. Sir, it's always an honor to have you on.
John, thank you. It's my pleasure, and I look forward always to calling in. Thank you so much.
Now, we love to go to Moyock. That's part of your district. My son's got his baseball team practices down there. And we go on Wednesday night. When I take him and I go back, I get the Wednesday night barbecue special at that little southern barbecue place. I know you know where it is. And it's like $2 all you can eat barbecue. And if you've ever seen me, I have no aversion to the adult utensil, sir.
Well, we are well known in eastern North Carolina, and that includes northeastern North Carolina, for good quality, good tasting barbecue. So come on down to the 3rd District.
All right. I come down 2 times a week. Now, you were the first person out of the box to endorse Daniel Webster for House Speaker. And now his campaign has taken off. But we've got a lot of people saying, well, he can't get elected now because, well, he's the reason McCarthy went down. The reason McCarthy went down is because your group, the Freedom Caucus, basically said you're not getting the 218. We're not going to back you. That's why he went down. You also sent a letter out that I thought was pretty effective. I think of all the candidates, you're right. Daniel Webster's the guy because I think he'll get things back to regular order.
Yep.
But the thing is, Congressman, you look at the results he had in Florida. They're stunning how he turned that around. I was hoping you could share that with our audience.
Well, he won speakership in Florida by 1 vote, and what he did, he changed the process, and that's what we need in Washington. He changed the process to where the process was more open, and the process worked because the Republican majority in the House in Florida allowed the Democrats to participate. And that's what we're missing in Washington. In fact, in Washington, we have a process where within the own Republican Party, people like me, we don't even participate in our own party. So what Daniel Webster is trying to do, and I think people are beginning across this nation to learn more and more about him, what he wants to do is to go back to regular order. He wants to let the committees of jurisdiction, which now are controlled, obviously, by the Republican Party, to let them function as they should function. Boehner took that away. The way that John Boehner runs the House is he will bring to the floor what he wants to bring to the floor by going to the Rules Committee, which is controlled by Republicans, and let them mark up the bill when the committee should be marking up the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So Daniel Webster, to me, is a breath of fresh air that we need right now, and to get this House moving in a direction that we've got the kind of leadership that all members of Congress, whether you agree with him or not, can trust him. What we have been missing in Washington in our leadership is trust.
It's so interesting that you say that because the other issue with trust is you get it by empowering your members, right?
Right.
I mean, you just haven't had that.
That's right.
Now, what he did in Florida is pretty amazing because the approval rating for the House of Representatives in Florida when he took over, Congressman Jones, was about 10%.
Right.
It was about 2% higher than it is right now for the U.S. Congress. When he got out of there, he took it from 10% to 60%.
That's right.
I mean, think of that. What would happen if the Republicans in Congress right now had an approval of 60% instead of 5%? What would that mean?
John, what it means is that the House is coming back to the will of the people instead of the will of money. And Daniels, I know, said many times, and maybe on your show, that principle and power cannot coexist.
Yes.
Because power equals money. And money controls policy. What Dan Webster is saying is that principle should control policy. And that is why I am supporting him, and I really believe he's picking up some interest. And if Paul Ryan does not accept the speakership, which I hope he doesn't because I wouldn't vote for him anyway, But I hope he does not accept the speakership, and let us open this up to the members of the House, and Dan Webster would be one of them, and I believe that Dan Webster can convince other Republicans that he is the right leader.
Okay, Congressman Jones, let's. I know I can always count on you, sir, for forthrightness and candor. So let's just be honest with each other here. This movement for Paul Ryan, I call it the Ryan Ruse. He is part of the original Young Guns, which was Eric Cantor, Kevin McCarthy, and Paul Ryan.
Right.
He to me, he's Boehner with a widow's peak. Nice guy, love the guy, does a good job on Ways and Means, but he was not a particularly effective vice presidential candidate. And so to me, it's just all these people saying, oh, well, he's the one guy that could bring everything together. There would be exactly zero change as far as I could see. So my question is, it's almost a ruse. Like he's everybody's compromise candidate. He hasn't even said he's interested in it. He has a young family, but it seems like it's almost like bringing him in there is almost like a Trojan horse.
You are absolutely right, John. Kevin McCarthy was a pick of John Boehner. Kevin McCarthy, had to step down. So now John Boehner wants Paul Ryan to get in there. And you're right about the connection with McCarthy and Eric Cantor. Those three, right now, in my opinion, will still be a team no matter who becomes the speaker, and especially if it becomes Paul Ryan. Eric Cantor will still have his influence. Kevin McCarthy will have his influence, and the conference will lose, in my opinion.
Now, we had a congressman on the other day, Congressman Ridgell from the 2nd District. You know him well.
He's a good fellow.
Virginia Beach, good guy. And he basically said right on the air, he said, look, Danny Webster can't win because there's many of us that feel that he undermined Kevin McCarthy. Ridgell had endorsed McCarthy. So he said, look, if it's not Ryan, it's got to be somebody else, but it can't be Webster. How do you get disqualified because you tell the truth? How do you get disqualified because you simply take somebody on?
Well, listen, Daniel Webster had no more to do with Kevin McCarthy stepping down than the letter that I wrote that got national attention that said that any person running for whip, for majority leader, or for speaker should make sure, since they have been in Congress, that there are no skeletons in their closet, so they can tell the Republican conference, don't worry about that. I have nothing that I've done since I've been a member of Congress that could be embarrassing to the conference and to the House of Representatives. Dan Webster did not do anything. I disagree with Scott. I think the world of Scott, he's a very bright fellow. But no, Dan Webster did not have anything to do with Kevin McCarthy stepping down. And you know, if you've been on the Internet, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I think that your letter that was sent out that I thought was very salient, cogent, and sober basically said, look, we got a lot of issues going on. There's a lot to debate. We don't need a distraction. And if there could be one, do yourself and everybody else a favor and maybe not aspire to a leadership position. Look, we all lived through Newt Gingrich. Then we lived through the fellow, what was his name, from Louisiana?
Bob Livingston.
Right. We all lived through that. And nobody wants to see a repeat of that. And look, I don't judge anybody what they do, but politics is politics, and we have to deal in reality in the world that we're in. So
absolutely,
I thought your letter when it came out. I mean, if there was anything that I think, because your letter came out and then McCarthy called a meeting at 10 a.m. a day after that, and he was out, right?
Well, it was actually my letter came out on Tuesday, and he stepped down on Thursday. And the whole thing is, I don't know. I try not to read into rumors and all these things, but I know that as quick as he stepped down, and it was not due to my letter. I want to make that clear. But truthfully, it happened so fast that people are still talking about it.
Walk us through the sausage making now, Congressman. We need to elect a new speaker. Boehner says he'll stay on until that happens. He changed the date. What happens now? Walk us through the timeline. Well,
obviously, we're in our districts. I had David Bratt down in my district yesterday, and he was well received, by the way. And we would go back next Monday, and then I've got 2 or 3 calls from people who would like to become the Speaker of the House, and of course I told them I'm committed to Dan West as long as he's in the race, and I hope he will be the Speaker, by the way. So what we would do when Boehner determines probably that Paul Ryan is or is not going to offer himself a speakership, then things will probably move pretty quickly.
So
I think he wanted to give, and I understand that because you're right, you said it yourself, John. Paul Ryan has young children, and he has a commitment to his family. That's the most important. And if you become Speaker of the House, you have to go all around this country to raise money, to also to help members of Congress who might be in tough races, and it becomes a 7-day-a-week job.
Oh, look, no question. I mean, one thing that you have to give to John Boehner, he worked his behind off. I mean, he was on an airplane every single weekend, going from Seattle to L.A. to Minnesota to Texas to Florida. I mean, he was all over the place. He raised a ton of money in his pack. And but, you know, he's his kids are out. He's an empty nester, whatever.
Yep.
But Paul Ryan goes home every weekend.
Yep, that's right.
And so, you know, I mean, I know I've got the range. I wouldn't want to be out of town if I had young children weekend after weekend after weekend because they basically grow up without a dad. I don't think he's interested in that. No,
and I can honestly tell you that Paul is in a powerful position now as chairman of Ways and Means, and he can be chairman of a powerful committee and go home every weekend. So he's got a lot to think about, and even though I wouldn't support him for speaker, I certainly respect his being a family man and a good man and a smart man, but I think Boehner's just hoping that somebody Boehner does not want the conference. He does not think that we as conservatives should have much influence, and that's what a lot of this is behind the scenes. We got 40 or 50 of us who are the conservatives who want to have regular order, who want to stop spending more money than we bring in, and that's not what Boehner wants to see.
So if Ryan runs, conventional wisdom from everybody in the mainstream media is that basically if he runs, he's in, the fait accompli, mail it in, send it in, it's over. But if he doesn't run, then there's no leading candidate, right? So anything can happen.
No, that's right. That's the way I think it should happen. It would be an open process, and anyone within the Republican conference can offer his or herself as a candidate. I've even heard Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. She's a very capable person, wants to run if Paul Ryan doesn't become the nominee. So my hope is for the good of the conference, but also the good of America, that we will not have a chosen one, if I can say it that way, to be the Speaker of the House. We will open it up to the conference and let the conference decide from within the conference who is the best candidate and not have someone that's leaving office like Mr. Boehner pick his replacement.
Congressman, wouldn't that be a shot of oxygen in the room to just have an open conference where you have a nominating process, you have several people competing for the speakership, everybody can air it out, there's no fait accompli, there's no hand-picked successor. I mean, wouldn't that process, think about it, in and of itself, Congressman, wouldn't that process just be a shot in the arm to the Republican caucus right now, which even Republicans can't stand it? I mean, that's the bottom line. They can't stand it.
John, your analogy would be exactly what I think Congress needs. We're so unpopular to be able to say that it's going to be an open process, and they will pick their leader from within their caucus, and then that would be such a breath of fresh air, even for those that don't like Republicans, to see that we can choose our own leader and not have to have it handpicked by someone from the leadership. The leadership, I'm not trying to be critical of them, but they have taken this. They have cut more and more deals with Mr. Obama. We're going to go back, and within 2 weeks, John, we're going to raise the debt ceiling. That allows America to borrow more money to pay the bills because we spent more money than we brought in revenues. It just doesn't make any sense. So you're right. If we would not have a hand-picked candidate to replace John Boehner, go to the conference and let the conference function, and the will of the conference would produce the speaker. I think that would be a tremendous breath of fresh air.
We covered the Donald Trump event yesterday in Richmond live on the radio, so I was there. They had about 6,000 people turn out.
Right.
We saw people that we had never seen. So these are not the typical activists that come out. So, we get there at 3 p.m., so we were able to just grab people in line, and as they were coming in at 5 before we got on the air, and, ask them, why they were here. And the almost universal response was they were looking for something different. And when we would say, are you a Republican or do you support the Republican Party, whatever, the answer was almost universally no. It's like the Republican brand is in the tank. I mean, people don't even want to be associated with it. They were just coming out for this one candidate, but I think you would change it. Let's go to the increasing the debt ceiling. It's going to happen again at the stroke of midnight. There isn't going to be any debate on it. Nobody's going to be arguing it out. And I think, Congressman, this leads into the frustration that people have.
John, that's a prime example of why Donald Trump is so popular, because people know that for too long that Congress has functioned in the best interest of a few and not in the best interest of the many. That's the problem. And that's why Donald Trump is doing so well. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've not voted for a debt ceiling increase, John, since 1998. Bush wanted the debt ceiling raised 7 out of the 8 years that he was the president. Mr. Obama has already, in 6.5 years, had the debt ceiling raised 7 times. That, for your listener, they know just as much as I do, so let me restate it. That allows our administration to borrow more money so we can pay the bills that we cannot pay if we don't raise the debt ceiling. That's just like your equity line. You go up to the limit of your equity line, you've got to call your bank and say, can you increase it another $2,000? I need that $2,000. That banker might say, no, I'm not, because you're not going to be able to pay it back. That's where America is headed.
Sure. And then you go to a payday lender and basically you fund it, and now you're paying, 300% interest or something. I mean, it's a cycle you got to get out of. But I think what is maddening to people is we're not even going to have the debate over it. It's good. It'll be signed at midnight, and then all the debate will be not about the debt ceiling and spending and how the future is, but Congressman, all the debate will be, well, there's 50 people that want to shut the government down. Right? That will be the debate.
John, that's why we need Dan Webster or someone else. The establishment in our leadership of Boehner and McCarthy and Scalise, they want to play the games with K Street. They want to go ahead and raise the debt ceiling and not draw the line in the sand. If we don't draw the line in the sand, then America will collapse probably in my lifetime, and I'm a 72-year-old man.
Well, time is running out, Congressman. The hourglass is empty. We've got to turn this thing around. I appreciate your leadership. We're always honored to have you on our show. You were the first person to say we need a change, and you turned me on to Daniel Webster, and now I'm sold. I'm sold 100%.
Great.
I think he should be the speaker. I'm excited about it.